So we're heading to the next wine. So you prefer the Dom Ruinart, right?
I like you to really be able to understand the difference between Premier Cru non-vintage. I mean, mostly Premier Cru grapes Chardonnay non-vintage, and Grand Cru, because this is our very best wine, Dom Ruinart, only made from Grand Cru vineyards, long aging. But the long aging is a consequence of the choice of the very good grapes, because those Grand Cru vineyard grapes, they need a long time to mature, in the cellars. Otherwise, it's just not ready. And you'll see the difference it makes after spending so many years in the cellar. But only those Grand Cru can really hold, such an aging.
So this is like the 98 vintage?
Absolutely. This is the current release of Dom Ruinart, 1998. This is the 21st vintage we've made since 1959, the very first year we made Dom Ruinart.
So not every vintage is a vintage?
Absolutely. We didn't make 97, we didn't make 99, no 2000 will be released, no 2001, and the next vintage will be 2002.
Okay.
So it's really up to the year, As I often say, this is the work of nature.
Yeah.
As much as the Blanc de Blanc, we have to craft, blend, make trials to make it year after year the same. For the Dom Ruinart, we let the nature do the work. Okay. And then we only select it if it's an exceptional year. You see, we also serve it in a slightly different flute, same shape but bigger.
Yeah.
For the wine to breathe more, because it needs more space to open, and so like even a wine glass would be definitely something you could use, not even a champagne glass.
Yeah, you see often in a restaurant some flutes also.
But the narrow flutes, they're okay if you do a party.
Yeah.
But in the restaurants, when you start sitting,
want to make music, but
yeah, absolutely. No, I'm 100% with you. I think champagne needs to be approached in those circumstances in a restaurant as a wine. At a cocktail, I can understand seeing champagne as a drink.
Yeah.
But like a wine like this deserves a bit of care and a bit of handling, and having the right glass is very important. You see the nose?
Yeah.
Doesn't has the same components. The freshness is no longer here because obviously it's more mature, and you enter another world. It's more like honey, biscuit, candied fruit, dried fruit like hazelnut.
Absolutely.
It seems almost sweet on the nose, quite ripe and sweet. And that's also because of the year. 98 was a fairly warm year, and as a result, the flavors are like this.
Mm. Mm.
Big difference on the palate, because the wine is broader, is longer, and has much more richness and complexity.
Yes.
The length is amazing. This is a wine with bubbles. It's not only champagne, you see? The difference, because there's so much more weight, and this you can pair with many dishes, because it has much more power to balance the dish.
What I find really interesting is like Ruinart is a négociant manipulant. Means you have a contract with grape winners, right?
Absolutely.
And you don't have any properties by yourself?
We do have about 17 hectares.
17?
Which is not a whole lot, and we buy 90% of our grapes.
Okay. And how do you work with the winners? Like
you visit them. I had one on the phone this morning. I will visit his vineyard early next week, to see how things are going. So yeah, we try to be quite close. Okay. We cannot visit all of them because there are very many. Yeah. But the main ones, we try to keep contact and make sure they do a good job during the year, and a very good job at harvest also.
Okay. So this obviously is Grand Cru, absolutely
this is only Grand Cru
premium.
Vineyards.
It's really delicate, fragrant, it's complex. It's like, I like it. Yeah.
Thanks. And it still can age.
Yeah. That's one of my questions.
There's a nice maturity, but another 5-10 years should be no problem.
Okay.
Especially bottles will age, but magnums, the double size, will age even better and longer.
Okay, of course, And just to go back to the Blanc de Blanc, it's a non-vintage, when it's released, because many people ask me, how long can I keep it in my cellar?
It depends on the house style. Our wines are non-vintage champagnes, the Renard Blanc de Blanc or Ruinart ROSÉ, are rather based on freshness, and therefore they are best enjoyed fairly young. So I would say don't keep them more than 2 years. But for other houses, other champagne houses that have more an oxidative style or richer, then you could keep them longer. It really depends on the house style. But for us, I would say 2 years for the non-vintage, 3 years maybe max. But for Don Ruinart, many more years.
So we go ahead with rosé.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Do you use red wine or do you make like a Sani?
We use red wine.
Red wine.
It's been the tradition at Ruinart since a long time, since probably 1850, 1860, to make a blend of red wine and white wine, and it works. So why changing it? You know.
Okay.
But the red wine is made in a very the red wine is made in a quite light way. So we don't make a big extracted red wine because we don't want to have tannins on the red wine. We want to have some nice color. We want to have some nice fruit flavor, especially. Okay. But we don't want to have a harsh champagne. We really want this rosé to be as easy to drink as the Blanc de Blanc.
So you use Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier?
We use only for the red wine. We use only Pinot Noir.
Okay, so the
from
diva,
Premier Cru vineyards, actually.
the queen. Yeah. Okay.
I think it
Some
works.
say so.
it works fantastic.
Okay.
Wow.
So nice color.
Look at the flavor. Yeah. Look at how the color is always, quite nice, quite intense, but with a beautiful, gentle pink with a it's intense but not too dark. Also.
Would you describe the
nose for me has a lot of raspberry,
of course,
and cherry. This is very typical of this cuvée. The cherry on the palate, very obvious, very strong cherry character. I think it's the style of the red wine we make and the blend. There is something specific to this rosé, which is unusual for rosé non-vintage, is that we use 45% Chardonnay, which is unusual. Normally, rosé champagne only have a small part of Chardonnay. But since we are specialized in Chardonnay, we do get some grapes. And we also like to use Chardonnay to bring more freshness on the palate. Pure raspberry. It's funny, huh?
I think you're doing quite a good job here at Ruinart. So you said that you started your work here 4 years ago. And I think you will have a nice future here.
I hope to stay a few more years, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I would like to still be here when Renard celebrates his 300th anniversary. This is in 18 years. But if you think, of our job. So I joined Renard in 2007, made some, this was actually quite a good year for Chardonnay in Champagne. So we bottled Don Ruinart 2007. And it's still aging in the cellar, obviously. And it won't be released before 2018. So amazing. It takes, 10, 11 years. And obviously for the 300th anniversary, we will try to have a special wine to celebrate.
Okay.
And this is something we will probably be doing in a few years, So
okay.
Always very long term.
Frédéric, merci beaucoup for your time. I know you're a very busy person also. A huge responsibility, quite a lot of jobs. But really, I'm really glad that you had time for me.
My pleasure.
And for my audience. So
cheers to all the audience.
So I hope you enjoyed the show and see you in the next clip.